Hello, 8th graders. All right, today we are finally on day 3 of the 1.4 irrational numbers. All right, so day 3. Day 1 was classifying rational and irrational numbers. Day 2 got a little more intense. You had to round it to the nearest tenth. And now today, day 3, we are going to turn these, some are rational, some are irrational numbers, into whole numbers or else numbers to the nearest tenth, so we can put them in order from least to greatest. All right, let's look at example number 3. By the way, we are on page 18 of your notes. Example number 3. All right. Turn my pen on here. Now we have 3 numbers. We have 4.03. We have the square root of 17, and then we have a fraction, 16 over 4. When I look at those 3 numbers, I want to turn them all into whole numbers or decimals. That makes it easy because 4.3, well, that's already in a decimal form. And if I look at 16 over 4, that's easy to turn into a whole number because what is 16 divided by 4? You don't need a calculator to do that. We know that that equals exactly 4, right? Now we know which one is bigger between the 4.3 and the 4. If you're thinking of money, it's $4 less or greater than $4.30. It's less, right? So we know we have to just figure out the square root of 17. Now we figured that out in day 1, day 2, how to get the closest we can to the nearest tenth. Well, this one, the square root of 17 comes between the square root of 16 and the square root of 25. Now, 17 is obviously way closer to 16, so you're going, and this is a positive negative 4, so you know that your answer is going to be approximately 4.1 since it's only 1 away, right? Now, if we look at this, we have 4, we have 4.1, and 4.3. Those are the orders, but you have to put the originals on the lines over here separated by commas. So the smallest one would be the 4, and that was your 16 over 4, okay, because that was your 4. Now you don't have to write this stuff down here on the bottom here, I'm just showing you. The second largest was your 4.1, and that was the work we did right here for the square root of 17. So you put the square root of 17 on the line, and then your largest one, 4.3, that was the original, so you just write 4.3 on the line here. All right, because this one we estimated to be about a 4.1, and then obviously this one was the 4.3. So with the originals on the line, we just ordered those from least to greatest and put them on the line. All right, let's go to, I'm going to try a little bit smaller here. Example B. Now there's 4 of them, but to save you time, if you look at these 4 numbers, do you notice something about one of them? Perhaps this right here, this negative sign on the negative 1.3. And if you notice, none of the other numbers have a negative sign, so you obviously can just cross that one out and put that one first, a negative 1.3, because you know that is your smallest out of all of them. Now we need to order the other 3. Is there another one that's pretty easy? Doesn't matter which one we start with. So let's just start from the beginning. 7 over 4. To turn that into a fraction or a decimal, that would be your numerator divided by your denominator. And 4 goes into 7 once without going over. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract, you get 3, so now we're going to have to add a decimal and a 0, bring that down. How many times does 4 go into 30 without going over? Good, 7. 7 times 4 then is 28. Subtract, you get 2. I'm going to have to add another 0 here, bring that down. We're getting to the end. 4 can go into this 20 now exactly 5 times, so this is a terminating decimal. We won't have any remainders and it doesn't repeat. So 1.75 is what your 7 over 4 turns into. All right, now let's look at this one. What does this turn into? Well, that's easy enough. The square root of 100, we don't even have to estimate that one. The square root of 100 is 10, and then it's over 5. 10 over 5 simplifies to, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So we know that's what that one simplifies to. Then we have the square root of 2. The square root of 2, well, that's not a perfect square. It comes between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. Because 1 times 1 is 2, so this is going to be 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Excuse me, 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Now the square root of 2 is definitely closer to the 1, but it's only 1 away from the 1, and it's only 2 away from the 4, so I'm going to guesstimate instead of just 1.1, I'm going to go with like about approximately 1.4. All right. Now we have these three to look at. What is the next smallest one? Because we know our negative is the smallest. What's our next one in line to be the smallest? And if you get confused, think of it as money. $1.40, $2, or $1.75. Because if you're in the hole, you spent $1.30, 1.30. The next smallest would be your $1.40, but that's not what we put on the line. We put the original, which is the square root of 2. Then, so we're done with this one and we're done with this one. That leaves us, which one's the smallest here between the 7/4 or the square root of 100 over 5? 1.75 is definitely smaller than 2, so you're going to put 7/4 on this line, and that leaves us with the square root of 100 over 5 as the largest. All right, so you're done with those two. Now we're going to do the same thing, except for putting them on lines, we're going to put them on a number line. Now if you notice, this number line goes from 0 to 1. All right, and in the middle is 0.5. Halfway across here is 0.5. All right, let's look at this. Turning 4/5 into a decimal. 4/5, wow, I don't know what just happened there. All right, 4/5. Well, that's easy enough. You can also make that into take it times 2. You're going to have 8. 5 times 2 is 10. 8/10. It's just like that. If you forget that little trick, you know, you can always take your numerator, divide it by your denominator. And 5 goes into 4 0 times, but 5 goes into 40 exactly 8 times. So either way, you have 0.8 is where 4/5 will go. What in the world? Where 4/5 goes on your number line. So might as well just plot that right away. If 4/5 is 8/10, here we have 0, here we have 5/10, so we know that this is going to be 6/10, this is going to be 7/10, this is going to be 8/10, and this is going to be 9/10, and here's your dollar, your whole. All right, so we'll find our 0.8, which is right here. You put your point on your number line. All right, and that indicates that that point right there represents our 4/5. All right, done with that one. Now let's do, I'm going to do the easy one first. We have a 0.1. Well, here's 0. If this is 0.5, this is 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. That's easy enough. I'm just going to put a point right here. This indicates 0.1. Now all I have to do is plot the square root of 18 over 5 on that number line. What is the square root of 18 closest to? Well, we can go between the square root of 16 or the square root of 25. I have no idea why that is doing that. So let's see, which one will this be? The square root of 16 or the square root of 25? 18 is really pretty close to the square root of 16, isn't it? Just a little bit past, so this would be a 4. So maybe a 4.2 will go. All right, could be a 4.3, but then you have to divide by a 5. And so what do you want to divide by? Do you want to divide by, let's make this an easy number to divide by, something that's divisible by 5 that's close to this. Can we make this a 4.5? That would be pretty close, wouldn't it? So let's take our 4.5, our numerator, divide it by 5. 5 goes into 4 0 times, but it goes into 45 9 times. So that's a really good, pretty good estimate, 0.9. So let's put here 0.9, put our point here, and that is approximately where our square root, glitches, our square root of 18 over 5 will go. And that is done. And that's okay. If you need to show your chicken scratch off to the side here, your chicken scratch off to the side, that's good. I like to see your work. No need to go erasing all that because you're not allowed to use the calculator. It's good for me to see that. All right, one example now, one left before you start your homework. On page 18 of your notes, letter B, the square root of 10. All right, so we have to turn that into a decimal. Oh, I'm going to do this one right away. This one's simple, 0.9. Sorry about that. I have no idea why it's doing that. So right here, put it at the 0.9. And I'm going to indicate my original up here, 0.9. That's where that one goes. I'm going to just cross that off. That's done. Oh, here's another easy one. 4/8. We know that as also being what? 1/2. And 1/2 we know always as a decimal is 0.5. So let's go put 4/8 at the 0.5. Now that one's done. Now I only have 2 left to put on my number line. Let's start with the first one. Square root of 10, super close to the square root of what? 9, right? It's super close to the square root of 9. What would be easy to be divisible by 10 though? All right, this would be 3, positive or negative 3. If we went to the square root of 16, that would be a 4. Well, neither 3 or 4 is easy to divide by 10, but it really doesn't matter because you're going to have to add some zeros. So let's go with, let's just round it to the whole number. Let's just go with a 3. We can do that, okay? So let's try that. 3 is now our numerator. If we approximately 3 divided by 10. 10's easy to divide by. Do you really even have to? We have 3/10. Do we really even have to divide 3/10? No, but if you forget, you can take 3 and divide it by 10. What's going to happen? 10 goes into 3 0 times. But how many times does 10 go into 30? 3. You still end up with your 3/10, just like here if we had 3 over 10. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. 3/10 right there, and put the original above it, the square root of 10, all over 10. Done with that one. Now that just leaves this one. The square root of 37 all over 10. Well, the square root of 37 is super close to the square root of 36, which would be 6, right? So 6 over 10 is the same as 6/10, 0.6. 0.6, so we're going to go right here, 6/10, indicate our original, square root of 37 over 10. Ta-da, done. All right, so take your time, no calculators. Make sure that your number lines at least, all these are neat. I can read your originals on here. Your chicken scratch over here is good to see. Don't erase that. Same for up here. Make sure they're in order from least to greatest, and have your homework done by tomorrow.